Jake Olson, USC long snapper, got in the game. He is legally blind, and pretty amazing story. And I got to give a lot of credit to Western Michigan as well and their coach, Tim Lester, to be able to allow this to happen, and Jake taking time to join us now. Jake, first of all, congratulations. How did you feel about it?
Oh, thank you, Dan. It was awesome. I mean, it was obviously a long time waiting for. A lot of practice went into that, and it was between my team and just basically everyone involved throughout Trojan Nation. I mean, it was just a long time. Like you said, we've been waiting for it, and it was great to actually see it happen.
What did you hear when you walked onto the field?
Well, I was focused, definitely on just trying to tap into my technique and feel. But you definitely hear the crowd cheering, and again, I feel nothing but love and support in that stadium, and just from all the Trojan Nation. So, as much as the pressure was of a stadium full of people, it really, it's a stadium full of people that are just rooting the heck out of you.
I couldn't help but think of your parents in that moment, Jake. With everything you've been through, but your parents there watching, but they can't do anything for you. Did you talk to them about how, what they were thinking when you were going into the game?
Yeah, I mean, I alerted them before for the game I was probably going to go in, so they were very excited. I mean, they were ecstatic for me. I started 2 years in high school and varsity at Orange Lutheran, so it's nothing new for me to have game time plays, but it's for obviously on a much bigger stage, and then just the whole story behind it was awesome.
How nervous were you?
I was nervous the days leading up, and obviously that morning, just because I realized what I was about to go do was probably bigger than obviously just a PAT snap. That it had a lot more meaning, just from a sports aspect. So that really was kind of where the nervous was. I believed in my technique. I believe in obviously my muscle memory, just because I've snapped thousands of times, and we practice. So it wasn't that. It just was more of, wow, this is going to be a huge moment that everyone's going to remember for the rest of their life. And I wanted to make sure I delivered, just because there was just so much, I guess, to be learned from that and to be inspired from it, that I really wanted just to prove to people that I could. Well,
it feels like we're making it bigger than what you're making it. Like you've done it before, and okay, it's a bigger crowd and bigger stage, but because it's a great story, it's an unbelievable story, Jake.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I do recognize that. I mean, it's I guess because I do it at practice every day, and it's just something that I've done, like I said, thousands of times. But again, I do realize that inspires people, and that's what I love with all the coverage for it. I mean, it's just hearing how people are inspired and then touched by it and moved it by it is something that in return inspires me, and that's really something that I love hearing.
He's Jake Olson, the USC long snapper. What's next?
Well, obviously more games. Just want to get in there and keep proving myself, and I got 2 more seasons here, so just want to continue move on, and not just allow this to be a one-time experience.
If you'll explain, and I know you have, but if you can for a national audience, of how you lost your eyesight, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, so when I was about 8 months old, the doctors found a rare form of eye cancer in my eyes called retinoblastoma, and they had to almost immediately remove my left eye. And then through radiation chemotherapy, we were able to save my right eye, and then basically for the next 12 years, that cancer came back around 7 times. And on the 8th time, the doctors pretty much said, and this was when I was 12 years old back in 2009, the doctor said that really there was no more treatment that could affect the cancer, and the scare and the danger really is that the tumor moves from the retina through the optic nerve to the brain, and then from there it's pretty much unstoppable. So that's why the removal of the eye is kind of necessary in situations in which they think the cancer is untreatable.
That night before surgery, that week before surgery, and you're 12 years of age? What do you?
Yes.
What do you? What do you remember?
Well, that was one of the more awesome things about the USC experience when I was part of that team with Coach Carroll, is just when I was here on campus, when I was in practice, it really it really was a hedge of protection and safety. And my mind really wasn't on that next day. It really wasn't on what I was going to confront. It was more just the pure joy and bliss being with my heroes on the Trojan team. But it was scary. I mean, it was sad. I remember that the morning of my surgery, I remember driving up to the hospital, and you're just trying to implant all the sights of, the beach or cars or the buildings, LA, like whatever I could see. I just wanted to kind of implant that because, I mean, that was one of the toughest things, was just knowing, this was the last time I was going to be able to see these things. And when I was heading back home, I wouldn't be able to. So that was kind of the thing that really was a burden on my heart and just my mind. It was just understanding this was going to be the last time I saw these things. And
your parents, last time you see them, I mean, that's...
Yeah, and that was the hardest part, just kind of being able to see my parents' faces. And, I remember seeing my dad's face, and it's just, I've never seen so much pain in a face before. And, it was something that they went through with me. And, I mentioned this after the game, but just to know how much hurt they've gone through, just to see their baby boy go through cancer and go blind, but just to see. And what motivates me is just to go out there and show them that, okay, I've gone through this, but I'm going to still thrive. I'm not going to let this tear my life apart. And so I want to give them those moments of pure joy and hope that outweighs the moments that were very tough.
Are you still playing golf?
I am. Yeah, I'm a big golfer. Obviously, I don't get out as much in the fall, but I'm a huge golfer still.
Explain, because, I have guys I work with, the Danettes, they're just picking up golf. And then I said, Jake, I think, shoots in the 80s. They would shoot in the 80s on the front nine, Jake. So what is it about golf? You can't see. I know that. Does your dad help you, or do you go out with him and then he lines you up?
Right. So basically what was happening, I was a really good golfer before going blind, and I wanted to keep that up. So in the beginning, back when I was 12, I was just making solid contact and advancing the swing from there. And a lot of it was muscle memory and just honing in that feel and understanding what the swing needed to be like to produce a great shot. And that's where really I learned muscle memory, and that brings me back to snapping. But with golf, so basically my dad would just put the club behind the ball, make sure the ball's centered, the club face is at the target. I'd take my stance, and then he just would back up, and then from there it's just, my swinging. And so it's a lot of work, a lot of, again, just going out there, understanding, okay, that was a shot that was good, that was a shot that was bad. And, eventually it gets to a point where it's just like every other golfer, where, okay, you're putting a little more draw on the ball today, like, let's feel it out. Let's see what you might be doing. Is your wrist coming through too quick, or your hips not clearing as much, whatever the case may be. So a lot of it, for any golfer, is just being able to go in there, tap into that feel the swing, feel maybe what's going on a day where maybe you're not producing the shots that you want. And eventually you just get to a point where it is just a consistent thing. You just become a machine out there, and that's my goal, is to become a machine out there. And over the summer I was shooting in the 70s, and it was it's just something that you got to practice and just trusting your swing. And I said, the ball's just sitting there to be hit. I know it's not that easy. Trust me, I understand that, but it is something that you deliver a great swing. That you will get a.
See now, Jake, you're being a show off when you say you can shoot in the 70s. Now you're being a show off, is what you're doing. All right.
Yeah, I'll play with people, and it's kind of probably bad for the game of golf, just the sport as a whole, and discouragement when you get beat by a blind golfer. But oh well.
You could take money from people. Your dad could go up to the first tee and go, well, we'll play you, and then all of a sudden, they'll be giving you a couple strokes there, and then you're
first hole maybe like shank a few, just
throw them off.
The best hire, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. We got to get you in the UCLA game. I think that's the next move here, right?
Yeah, no, I really, that would be awesome. That would obviously probably something that is a goal of mine for sure, just to be able to say I played against the boys across town.
Well, it was fun. It was a great moment. Congrats to your parents, too, because they went through that moment every bit as you did. And, Jake, we appreciate the time. I know that Swim with Mike program, Jake got a scholarship that's raised millions of dollars over the last 40 years. It goes to scholarships towards physically challenged athletes all over the country. The origin was for a paralyzed USC All-American swimmer and started out as Swim for Mike to raise money for him. It morphed into Swim for Mike now at a lot of places besides USC to raise money. Great story, Jake, and congratulations. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Dan. Fight on.
All right. That's Jake Olson.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.